And I don't believe in the empty marketing terms because it's cost a lot of money for organization. You cannot bullshit market. You have to be absolutely naked coming out. And this is one of the reasons why we started this show, because I want to be absolutely honest to the crowd, what's going on in the industry and where we're heading with that, right?
Hey, welcome everyone to the first ever ZAPTalk. I'm Joe Colantonio, and joining me is the one and only man behind ZAPTEST and the show ZAPTalk, Alex Zap. Hey, Alex, welcome.
Hey, thanks, Joe. Thanks for having us.
Awesome. Thank you for putting this show together. And also, our first guest ever, we have Daron Davis joining us. Welcome, Darren.
Hey, guys. How's it going? Good to be here.
Great to have you. All right, guys, I thought we'd just dive right in. First off, Darren, maybe you are the special guest here. Maybe introduce yourself to the crowd.
Sure. Darren Davis. I've probably been in the testing field for about 3 decades. I know I'm dating myself, but I've seen everything pretty much from, batch scripting as far as automation goes, all the way through, Selenium and now including some AI stuff. So that's sort of my background. I've worked for companies such as Equifax, Digital Communications Associates, and as well as a couple of other consulting firms. And that's my summary.
Awesome. And Alex, what I love about this lineup is I think we're all like old Mercury folks. So I think we've been in the field for a while. So I love how we're coming together again, for sure.
Yep, we're veterans of the industry, for sure.
That's for sure.
And absolutely.
I have the stripes to prove it.
That's right.
And the gray hair, as you can see, right?
Yep.
Exactly. Yep. Very cool. Yeah. So Darren, bro, it's been over 20 years as we know each other.
Yep.
I mean, as you said, with 30 years in the industry, gosh, I mean, I remember days when I started and I wanted to be something somewhere, and look where it's got us to, right? We can tell stories. We can tell stories to others now.
Oh my God. Yep. Yeah. There's plenty of those for sure. Yep.
So Alex, I'd love to know how you all met. That's a good intro, I guess, to like maybe how you all got introduced to one another, maybe what you were working on, and what the
absolutely.
Yeah,
Joe, this is the epic story, as a matter of fact. I mean, It's all started in 2005, a year before Mercury exited to HP software. And what happened back then, Mercury was putting themselves for higher valuation. They needed to prove more of the market share and success story. So Intercontinental Hotel Group, which is headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia, where I used to be based out of, had an issue. So they tried to use Windrunner, which was a kind of breadwinner, if you remember, that was the mighty automation tool in those days. But based on the technological constraints and the process orientation, they weren't successful enough to do so. And Mercury sent me to change the approach. And they just came out with QuickTest Pro. It was a new generation test automation technology that been based more on the component-based architecture with the other aspects of it. And at that time, Mercury, and I was working with the design team of the automation tools in Mercury, they came with the new concept of differentiating roles in the process. Before in the Windrunner days, you remember there was a concept that one guy should do everything. Should analyze the testing.
Concept, by the way. I was a Windrunner guy. I loved it. I was able to do it all. But anyway, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt, but I get jazzed up about Windrunner.
Exactly.
Don't get too excited there.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So I was one of the first in the industry evangelists of QuickTest Pro. I even wrote the white paper, QuickTest for Windrunner developers, which was a bestseller at that time. Yeah. And I volunteered basically to design the process based on the QuickTest Pro and the new concept of differentiating roles in the team to optimize the automation. And Janet was sponsoring that, and Trace and Jay were the team that we were implementing it all. And we were able to make it a success story. So IG at that time, with the implementation of QuickTest Pro and the process that we ran, showed a significant increase in the productivity.
Yeah,
So
let me let
yes.
me interrupt. So a little bit of backstory for what that project actually was.
Sure.
So basically what we were doing there at IHG, I'll call it IHG. It was Intercontinentals, it was Six Continents hotels. It went under a lot of different name changes, right, during that time. But what we were doing was actually building an e-commerce platform, a distributed, right, platform, for basically selling hotel rooms, to actually get them a web presence. Before that, they did not have any web presence at all. And as a matter of fact, our chief marketing officer, or the marketing officer at the time, actually went out and collected a small team of technologists to actually make this a reality, right? So that was basically their first web presence, as far as hotel bookings or reservations go. So just to give a little backstory there, like we were using, you know obviously heavily web, but we were also using, ATG Dynamo servers. If you guys remember those app servers, from way back in the day, they don't exist anymore. But anyway, it was great. It scaled immensely. I remember going from, $100,000 days to $500,000 days to $1 million days to $10 million days. It was crazy. And it was actually a great story, right? So after all that, though, we're like, okay, all the testing was actually being done manually. Like I literally sat there, I put in all of the requirements, because there was 27 volumes of documents that I had to go through to fish out all the requirements. I plugged them all into Quality Center. I think that's what it was called then. Yeah,
Yeah.
Quality Center.
Quality center, test
That's
director and quality center.
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
So like I said, it was all manual. There was no test team. I was the only person actually doing anything as far as setup, for the testing goes. And then eventually, we did build a small team. There's probably 8 to 10 of us to actually do the execution, right, of it as well. But again, all manual at the time. And then in comes, right, Alex and team. We tried to do some automation initially. It was very painful using initial versions of QTP. But anyway, you can take it from there, Alex.
All right. So, Alex, before you jump in, I want to just understand. So, you were doing it manually, and it was working, and you were making money. And this, folks, I don't know, this was innovative back in the day to do
Oh
this.
yeah.
They did. People take things for granted, but this was like probably one of the first online booking sites ever. So, it was working as you were manually testing it. So, what made you need to go to automation then?
Well, we needed to release the software faster, is what we need to do. So we had fixes and things that we needed to put in. And unfortunately, the regression testing aspect was taking longer and longer and longer, right? The more we got into it. Because also, if you remember, it wasn't just bookings at the time, it was also handling the Priority Club loyalty program too. So all of those things we knew, had to be automated, because it was very repetitive. So we were actually going through these things every release, and I was like, "This is ridiculous. We got to make this faster somehow and more accurate." So
Nice. Sorry, Alex. Back to you.
Yeah, I mean, so we did it. So we proved the concept that if you differentiate roles and you apply the component-based architecture, which has reusable components rather than linear, then it's gonna show the productivity. So you just change the approach a little bit, and it's all goes down to the process. So if you have a right process in place, everything will come along. So I'm in the industry. I'm a process guy. For me, before we get into the tool, even though I'm a tooler today, but I'm designing tool for sake of the process. I have so many plays in the tools that you can apply, like an American football, right? So you can always win. You can always do touchdown, no matter what you aim for.
So, Alex, did I hear correctly? Then you're one of the reasons that they killed Windrunner and you went to QTP and reusable components, because I have to be honest. I hated that approach, to be honest with you.
I know it was a revolution in the industry. We had a lot of resistance. I was one of the first evangelists that flew to Israel, and I was one of the first certified QTP professionals in the industry at all. I especially flew to Israel to test drive certification on myself, and I volunteered for that, even though it wasn't my initiative. But I remember that trip. It was very interesting. Yeah,
Awesome.
but look.
well, the complexity with Windrunner too, right? as well, because we had that installed there, at some point as well. It was all like some proprietary scripting language that you're doing it in. And so whenever
TSL.
QTP, TSL, TSL or whatever it was.
Yeah,
but actually whenever QTP came along, right, it was basically founded mostly in, I think it was VB script or something like that,
Yes,
if I'm recalling correct.
Yeah,
And it's a long
we
time
still
ago.
have it on ZAPTEST.
Yeah.
For those that would like to.
I mean, but my point is, with QTP came along the advantage of being able to do recording and playbacking and stuff like that. Because remember, our team at the time were all manual testers. There wasn't really a big push to have like automation at the time. So literally I had to hire like, computer science people who knew how to code in order to like even begin to use like Tizzle. So at least with the recording and playback, you had a little bit of a, jump start as far as creating some, reusable scripts, I guess you could say. But anyway, that was painful too. But anyway, go ahead, Alex.
So how did Alex get involved then, Darren? Because it sounded like you were having a lot of issues. You were trying to use Windrunner. You had a manual team. The dynamics of testers, their skills were more on the manual side rather than automation side. And then you reached out to Alex, or how did that connection happen?
Well, what happened is the project that we worked on, it was a slightly different group, which Darren was appointed to. But after we proved the success, IG asked Mercury, and I was a kind of account expert appointed by Mercury PSO because I've been running ZAP. We were sort of their SWAT team for the latest and greatest. And they appointed me to be account expert for IG to continue the implementation of Quick Test Pro and Quality Center and other groups. And I trained a group of managers within the IG, and Darren was one of them within the training group. And then Darren and we follow up the relationship towards other initiatives that Darren's team needed. And we've been helping Darren for about 6 years, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yeah, back then we had a mixed team between the US-based and Israeli-based team. Back then we had a team based out of Israel, like we had a mix. And we had a team that's been assisting that.
So, Darren, what did he do then that helped you train your team around? What did Alex introduce other than the QTP? Was it a process, an approach? Was it a strategy that your team was able to get behind? And then
I think it was all of it, right? I mean, because as he points out, right, without sort of a base strategy on what our goals and objectives were going to be, it's sort of difficult for somebody to show up with the tool and say, okay, let's go automate some stuff. So yeah, he brought a bunch of those sort of disciplines, with him. Again, this was really our first foray in actually doing any kind of meaningful automation, right, for us. So it was important, right, to have a good plan like in place. Because if you don't have a plan, you're just going to be, throwing some code at the wall, and that's how it's going to turn out. So, right, in order for us to get the kind of coverage and things that we needed, we just followed the plan, executed against it.
So Alex, how'd you come up with the plan?
Well, again, being a ex-military guy, I've been well trained in the term that you need to execute. No, it's not about working out, but it's part of the package. I like my guys in uniforms, but you going after the end goal. So first you need to understand where you want to end up, right? And then you start building backwards from that point. Now the fundamentals are very simple. You have to look at environment that you automate. You have to look at the personnel that you work with. You have to look at the tools that you implementing during that will be qualified for the personnel that you use. And most importantly, you have to adjust for delivery schedule because the testers always accompany developers. Make sense? And testers is like a kicker in the football team. Nobody remembers them until the crucial point where the 1 point wins the game, right? And this is where we're praying that the goal happen. So this is how we operate. And if you align all this perspective and be absolutely laser focused on that, you put together the game, and you definitely gonna deliver and get to the success point.
So Darren, you went on to do work for other large enterprises with automation as well. So what was your journey then from there to where you ended up? Did you take key lessons learned from Alex or what you did on your team and then applied it to your other teams as you move forward in your career?
I did. I absolutely did. You know, of course, I was at IHG for quite a while. It was around 13 years or so, but
Yep.
you know, so there was plenty of opportunity there to do, you know, even more with automation, especially when you consider the when you consider the transformation that they underwent to get off of the mainframe, right? So all of those hotels and reservations and everything were actually contained in a IBM mainframe for all practical purposes. So imagine having to then pull apart your mainframe that handles all of your reservations, your pricing, etc., inventory, right? And actually, you know, building a strategy or a plan around how you're going to do those tests. And so yeah, I mean, you know, it was basically carrying a lot of those things forward, you know, and it even more forward, you know, even like, you know, to you know, to Equifax as an example, you know, where we actually, I mean, obviously we weren't using QTP or any other tools, right? We used a bunch of open source tools, but still the philosophy is still the same, you know.
All right. So obviously, Darren, I'm just curious to know, like you were in a certain situation in your company. I always want to know, Alex, like as someone that comes into an environment as a consultant, like how do they figure out how something can be automated or should it be automated? So we're gonna have a game. I guess I'm gonna call it Zap. Alex Zap. See if you can zap them or the automation rundown game. We're not sure yet. So Darren, I want you to like picture a scenario or an environment of like key parameters of an automation environment that you think would be challenging. And let's see if we could kind of stump Alex or see how Alex would handle this particular challenge.
Let's say it is a reservation application,
All right.
right?
Okay. Yes.
And there are probably 50 or so requirements you need to cover. You do
Okay.
not have adequate automation skills for
Mm-hmm.
the team, but you have
Mm-hmm.
eight people. You have two manual. No, you have eight manual testers basically. A couple of
Mm-hmm.
them are application experts. You have to get this done right within probably a week. So, but what happens here is that teams say, no, it's going to take us at least two.
Okay.
So again, we don't have the right skills. We don't have enough time, but this is a very critical application, right? That we need to get out the door.
Okay. So, few questions. The delivery schedule, is it agile or you have already application ready for automation? Is it a still prototype, mock-ups, or we work with a live application?
It's actually prototyped.
So
That's all.
we basically working with the mock-ups, right? Pretty much.
Yep, that's right.
So, okay, easy peasy. So what we do, I felt I'm going to be speaking on behalf of ZAPTEST, right? Because I'm a tooler. I'm coming to the game with my tool, right?
That's right.
So, and I designed the tool to complement the process. And your case is similar to many other cases that we interview executives and talking about how to make it faster. So first of all, let's talk about automation, where we start. We're going to start at the design phase where you have what we call three amigo meeting, right? Remember cowboy coding? So you have a product owner, you have a developer manager, and you have a QA manager, let's say, or the lead developer or lead tester, right?
Mhm.
So we're going to be certain about requirement. If we got a solid undersigned requirement by project owner, this is what we can start working with. We also will need the hand drawing at least of the user interface, of the input-output fields, and what's going to trigger the the move from one step to another, right? All the triggers. So say it can be just a hand drawing, fantasize on the whiteboard and taking picture of the phone, right? So we got this artifact. I got use cases. I know where to start automation. I got a graphical representation of how the field's going to look like. They may be preliminary. All I need at this point is just a collection of input and output field with the buttons that are going to trigger the data processing through the system, right?
Mhm.
So then I'm going to understand who I'm working with. We're going to have any of the automation specialists, at least one out of these 8 people, or they all completely manual testers, have no idea about automation.
One has a little bit of familiarity with actually doing some form of automation, but he's no expert.
So, but will he or she be able to read the code
Yes.
and debug it?
Yes.
All right, perfect. So this is what we've got. Well, and you have documentation. We're going to deploy documentation at ZAPTEST. We have what we call Plant Studio. So Plant Studio, it's an AI-based analyzer that can take a whole salad of documentation. In our case, it's going to be easy, one formatted use cases somewhere, and going to return to me the whole collection of analyzed based on the different automation criteria data and compose it based on the automatable modules with the priorities and automation probabilities, right? So subject matter expert for each of their area going to review their portion of test cases and agree with the accuracy, right? So they're going to sign off that's, yes, I agree with this outline. Then they're going to click button, generate code in the Copilot. So we have a ZAPTEST Copilot, like many other Copilots, right? That's going to automatically generate textual representation of analyzed modules into the JavaScript source code. Even though I mentioned VBScript, but we do have a JavaScript, more modern than that. Right. So now you have a collection of all automated scripts with all business rules based on the modularity, event driving, data driving, and the rich logic, right? It's all built in our Copilot. So that person that understands scripting and coding will need to review the code, debug the scripts, make sense, and make sure that they sanity oriented, because at that point you will need to calibrate object recognition and this and that. So there should be some minor manual adjustment that you need to do, not a lot, and pass it back to the manual testers for execution. Now, if it's a booking portal, I assume that it's required to be tested on multiple platforms at once, because your user base probably going to test it on at least 4 or 5 browsers. You need to have a different operating system like Mac, Windows, mobile, right?
Yep.
So we have an MRON Studio, which allows you to position all these environments at once. And your manual tester, one of them, or some of them, depends how you want to arrange it for regression testing, will be able to execute it once the build will be handed to them. Make sense? So your automation engineer debugged it based on the mockups, because we assume that screen gonna look alike. Even if the object gonna move around, we have smart identification mechanism that will handle it and adjust it. Make sense? So, and everything else will be ready to execute. Once the developers release the build, you have the script plugged into the MRun and multi-run that runs the one script across all platforms parallel at once. So it's give you much faster to market results. Make sense? So this is how I would approach the situation.
How'd you feel when he mentioned AI? A lot of vendors probably come in, they pitch AI. You know, you've been doing this for a while. Like, what would your thoughts? Be like, this is BS, or like, how would you approach if someone?
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't believe it anymore. But there were times, years back where people would approach us and say, "Hey, look, we have a great automation tool, a test automation tool. It uses AI, this, that, whatever." And frankly, whenever you look under the covers at what they're actually doing, it's like, oh, just because this button moved from here to there, we can auto heal, right? And that's all they were doing. I mean, that's really great and everything, but that doesn't solve the majority of problems, right, that anybody would have. Usually the majority of problems comes in, the analysis basically of requirements, the creating of the actual sort of code itself, and then obviously some of the execution and obviously self-healing, like pieces of it. So unless there's something that does all of those things sort of together, I think they're just using the term AI to use AI just because it's a great marketing term.
Yep.
It's true, right? I mean, because like I said, I've seen now, not super recently, but that's exactly what I've seen in the past, and it infuriates me that people are like, yes, we do AI, we use AI, ML, all this other stuff, just because this is the industry buzzwords. And yet, when you ask them, okay, so how are you using it? Well, we just do this simple little thing here, basically, or something that I would consider pretty elementary. But so anyway, that's my initial thought whenever somebody says AI and automation. Maybe Alex has a different take on that. I'm sure he does.
I
He always
absolutely agree
does.
with you because I have to wear my marketing hat all the time, right?
That's right.
So I'm a jack of all trades. So definitely buzzwords are very handy for us to attract the attention. But
It's like AI, ML.
exactly.
It's like,
Listen, you know better that I grew up in the blue chip corporate environment as a professional.
yeah.
And I don't believe in the empty marketing terms because it's cost a lot of money for organization. You cannot bullshit market. You have to be absolutely naked coming out. And this is one of the reasons why we started this show, because I want to be absolutely honest to the crowd, what's going on in the industry and where we're heading with that, right? So, and I absolutely agree with you. The only thing, the different what we do at ZAP versus rest of the industry probably, we're giving you opt-out option. So we're so honest to what we're going to deliver that we're willing to work for 6 months at no pay, take it a chance that we're going to work for you for 6 months and giving you option to walk away without paying us if you don't like what we do. This is, I'm standing to my promise. Otherwise, I will not sustain the revenue of the company. I won't be able to drive successful business, right? If I won't be coming through to my customers. And you know better. I mean, you know me for many years. And besides you, you know that I have customers which are very serious organizations in the world, pretty much, that trust me with their business for 20 years. But nevertheless, I agree with your statement that it's a lot of buzzwords around. And this is one of the reasons why we came up with this program for opting out for half a year, because we believe that this is going to take you that long to make an absolute strategic bulletproof decision to keep ZAP in the house for another 20 years. So, but I absolutely agree. My AI is different than AI. It's still AI.
It better be.
Right. My AI better than their AI. Let's put it this way.
So Alex, maybe talk a little bit about that. Like, how is your AI better? Why, well, people might be hearing this, they're like, oh, this is just a QTP tool. I can use Selenium. I can use ChatGPT to help me with some of these things. What would you say to that then? What does ZAPTEST features have that would help Darren with the AI and those type of
right.
feedback or pushback you get?
Absolutely. Very, very good question, Joe, and I appreciate the question. So, first of all, AI may be of anything, right? In the early days, we've been in the technological clinch for a good 10 years as a vendors, because everybody were grappling over the object recognition, attracting the automators, right? So my object recognition better than your object recognition, my self-healing better than your self-healing, and this and that. But at the end, it was beating around the concept of the DOM-based object recognition, and this is what we changed at ZAP. We changed the paradigm. I said, instead of walking stairs, let's design the Spider-Man that can fly across the buildings, right? And that's why we came up with the computer vision idea and all the extended OCR and what's not. But in terms of AI, we're moving into era of crafting GPTs. So all the vendors gonna move into the GPT business. When the OpenAI came out, I was one of the first in the industry to jump on it right away. And I told my developers, I said, there's no, we're moving into different era. Everything gonna escalate and elevate from operating system level to the AI level. So meaning that right now game, it's about how better we're gonna adjust our platforms, AI platforms, to feed all the information, all the knowledge that we have as implementers of automation, because we were advanced servicemen, if you remember, Darren, this is how we met. So we carried this title of SWAT team that's been doing the latest and greatest, and we did a lot of very advanced projects in our career. So we fed all that into our Copilot, into our planning module, and our assistant. And our goal right now through the AI, not just to recognize the objects, it's easy, but our goal as ZAP to enable automation leaders, whatever the title that may be, it may be a manager or CIO or VP of technology, anyone that needs to deliver automation result faster with whatever it takes. Make sense? So our AI infused, laser focused on what needs to be done on a particular phase in the process. Either it's a planning, or it's a scripting, or it's analysis, right? And we continue infusing AI in other studios. We got a load studio, we got API studio, which allows you to do API automation. You can combine it all together. We have a WebDriver built in that's help people to segue from Selenium frameworks to the AI infused computer vision automation. So that makes it different. But again, as Darren said, it's you have to see it to believe it, right? And this is why we're doing our 6 months program to come through to the market.
Awesome. And Alex, I think that leads to like maybe the future of automation, Darren. If you start a new job, then do you think it's essential that someone uses a tool that does have these AI features, or does it like how do you know what tool to bring to a new situation or a new gig that you might join?
Well, again, right, you have to you have to determine like what you have, right, initially, right? That's the first thing you have to do. And, a lot of companies do just, well, I shouldn't say a lot. Some companies do just have, Selenium frameworks, TestNG, et cetera. That's the bulk that I've seen or heard. And it's really, right, they got away from purchasing, shrink wrap software, basically, because it was extremely expensive. So I think if the AI is implemented in the tool in such a way that it relieves the testers, effort by probably half or more, then that's really worth it, right? It's really worth it. And according to what Alex was just saying, as far as as far as how they utilize AI, and again, I'd have to see it to believe it, but I trust I trust Alex. So if it's capable of doing those types of things, as an example, analyzing requirements, actually creating code for you to actually do the testing as well. I think just that by itself is a huge win. That's what I think. So,
Yeah.
so again, I think, I think one of the other things, is, your AI has to be secure, right, as well. So you can't just go to a chat GPT and use it like over the internet, right? Because some companies that simply won't fly. Like as an example for Equifax as an example, that's not going to fly. So unless it's unless it's sort of on-prem or built in, that would be a tough sell, right, for companies like that, or probably anybody in fintech or banking or whatever. So that's just my 3 cents worth, maybe 5.
I agree with you, Darren. So, but the point is, we use Azure APIs. So makes sense. So Microsoft backing it. So we trust into Microsoft. It sounds very strong, right? And Microsoft we trust. Right. But nevertheless, I'm grateful to them for taking the leadership and they putting their commercial backing for that. Yeah. Because I absolutely agree with you. It may be very iffy in our regulatory environment. It becomes a constraint. But we cannot hold back technology because we're in a competitive climate, especially here in the States, right? So, and we got other guys challenging us with AI and the productivity and optimization. It's not about replacing people. It's about equipping people that you have with the tools that allow them to leapfrog the processes.
Enabling them to be more efficient.
Exactly. The new normal, it's already there. If you can pull up your GPT on the phone and get any answer at any time and the way you want, you expect the same thing from the tools that you use for day-to-day work to win your paycheck. Make sense?
Yep.
And all the investors and the backers are challenging their executives to deliver more with less. And you can achieve it only if you have smart tools in the right process. Make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. So beside that, Darren, you my brother, and you trusted me once and I made you successful. So my statement to you, despite the fact that we have a 6 months opt-out program for you personally, for sake of the history of our partnership, we're gonna commit to 1 year no cost for you. Whatever the team you're gonna join, you come with the ZAPTEST solution. We're gonna do 1 year proof of concept, backing you with all this solution to make you successful where you're gonna go.
That's excellent. That'd be cool. I'll definitely look you up.
And we'll have a link to ZAPTEST as well down below and more resources for you to check out to do the challenge yourself. Alex, I believe you said you had a 6-month try it or to believe it for yourself before you pay. How does that work?
Right. So what happened is we signed in the contract. Of course, we can do the demos and what's not to do all the introduction because it's a concept that's fairly new and it's a lot to digest. And usually it goes with the meeting with the developers who evaluating the process, making the technical wins. Then we talk to the managers to talk about the concept of all the solution. And then we sign in moving into the contract. And once we're under the contract, for the first, it's a usually annual contract. For the first 6 months, company has option to disengage. They can send us cancellation notice saying, guys, sorry, it didn't work out for us, and they don't pay us anything. So we're taking this chance upon us, and we're going to appoint also a full-time expert to drive this process because besides the unlimited licenses, we're offering a complementary expert that's assist
like
our
a customer success champion or something, right?
It's a hybrid model. This guy does automation for you and with you, acts as a first-tier support for everybody in the company because you got right away unlimited licenses. So all departments can start using it for various aspects, right? And instead of supporting setting up the tickets for support, they know that John is there to help them. Right. So person becomes the resident expert, if you will. And beside that, we're taking all this upon us. And if you don't like, if it doesn't work for you for whatever reason, you can walk away. But we're so confident that we can make it work for you. Between the 25 years experience in the field, being the pioneers of the industry, and the technology that we have with superior engineers and algorithms that we enrich for all this time, right? We guarantee that we're going to deliver. Make sense?
That's a pretty bold that's a pretty bold statement.
That's exactly, Darren. This is only in the going further in the era of deep fakes and AIs. This is the only how I envision winning my customers.
Yeah.
Because bureaucracy in the corporate America became unbearable. And for any manager to onboard a vendor either for POC, they have to crawl through the barbed wire of the procurement, sourcing, security, vetting, and you know better what I'm talking about. Nobody talks about it.
I know.
Nobody talks about it.
I will tell you right now where I've been. It takes at least 6 months. At least 6 months. Just to get somebody in the door, in order to do, anything with them. So yeah. I literally just lived that probably a year ago.
Exactly. This is why I'm giving you this 6 months.
Yeah.
I'm saying we can sign whatever the paperwork we can do and start the implementation and see how it all goes, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, Darren, again, when you're ready, we're right behind you.
You'll be there, right? I got you.
We'll be there.
It's good to have somebody in the trenches with you. That's for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely, brother. And you know what? I always value my fellow automation leaders, because you have to put your career next to my brand. And that's even more than just being an automation engineer using someone's tool.
Yeah.
Because for you to get to this point, you had to invest years of the career and the success stories with other projects. And for you to bring strategic technology like automation solutions similar to ZAPTEST, you have to put your career online. And it's up to me to go above and beyond to back you up and give you all the necessary things to keep the success on and keep it proven, because we always keep proving ourselves.
That's right.
Makes sense? It's a partnership. It's a partnership.
Excellent.
This is why I wanted you to be my first guest at ZAPTalk, to tell the story of lifetime partnership that this goes nowhere. And I pledge here that I'm going to stand by you for going forward, for all your endeavors.
Thanks, brother. Much appreciated. I know you will.
Absolutely. And thank you again, Darren, for joining us for the first episode of ZAPTalk. And thank you again, Alex, for joining us and putting this show together. It's going to be a monthly show, and you definitely want to stay tuned and check out all the links we have of value down below.
Be happy and let's zap.